Welcome to Stories I Know. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel before we begin today's tale. Thank you for your support. Let's get going now. It started on a sunny Parisian evening after the conclusion of the last round of trade talks. Nothing seemed tranquil inside of me, even though the city was enveloped in a serene silence. I can still clearly recall Lucas standing at my hotel room's door that evening, his well-tailored suit immaculate, his black eyes containing unsaid sentiments. "You seem to need a drink, Auntie Evelyn," he murmured in a silky voice. I concealed the inner fury behind a grin. My stepson, Lucas, was the son of the guy who had transported me from Lagos to this far-off, strange planet. However, there was something unique about him that drew me in ways I couldn't describe. I first told myself it was nothing, a passing idea I could disregard. However, the emotions only intensified. I found myself reflecting on his grin, the way his eyes lingered, the way his lips curved when he noticed me on the other side of the room. The way a guy looks at a lady is different from how a son should look at his stepmother. Even though I knew it was risky, I was powerless to stop it. After a few beers that evening, the tension in the air between us changed. We were on the verge of crossing a boundary that could not be reversed when his eyes met mine. His voice was low and bold as he said, "Let's go for a stroll." The city lights flickered like far-off stars in the clear night outside. However, I had the impression that I was inside burning. Something I wouldn't identify made every nerve in my body twitch and tremble. His fingers touched mine as we walked through the silent streets. I didn't back off. I ought to have recalled my identity and the situation. Rather, I allowed the moment to carry me. "Evelyn," he said, his tone a little lower. "How come you constantly refer to me as Lucas as if I were your stepson? Do you not think I'm greater than that?" Like smoke from a burning flame, his inquiry hung in the air. I didn't know how to respond. How could I acknowledge that the youngster I had once admired had changed into a guy who made my pulse beat unnecessarily? The gap between us disappeared. I felt a chill go down my spine as his lips touched my ear. The dam within me burst as he muttered, "I've wanted this for so long." To stop this before it was too late, I reminded myself I needed to step back. However, I didn't. It was tentative at first, a test, before his lips finally touched mine. He was anticipating my rejection. However, I didn't. With my hands clutching his shirt as if I were clinging to a precipice, I leaned into the kiss. Something irrevocable had happened by the time we gasped and drew apart. "Now what?" His voice heavy with feelings none of us could identify, he asked. I was itching to run. I wanted to act as if this had never occurred. However, knowing there was no going back, I reached for him once again. The harsh morning light revealed the truth I had attempted to deny. The pressure of Lucas's caused my eyes to crack open. His body was warm against mine as his arm was slung around my waist. I was in a panic. What did I do? William Sachs, my spouse, was far away, preoccupied with important discussions in Abuja, and was unaware of the treachery taking place in his own house. Slowly, so as not to wake Lucas, I sat up. However, his hold became more firm as I moved, and his touch became possessive. His voice was heavy with sleep as he spoke. "Evelyn." "Now what?" I let out a shaky breath, reaching for my garments with shaking hands. "This was a mistake," I said in a barely audible whisper. He sat up, his eyes observing me with a disturbing depth that went beyond simple want. "An error?" His tone was inscrutable as he echoed. I was unable to look him in the eye. "I can't do this," I muttered, pushing myself to get up and go away. His words halted me as I grabbed for the door. "You adore me, don't you?" I became cold. "Love?" Emotions I wasn't prepared to face rushed over me, causing my chest to stiffen. I didn't have a response, and I wasn't prepared to speak it out. My voice cracked as I eventually said, "I don't know." I can't continue doing this, however. I immediately turned to go. The hall seemed to go on forever, and every step made me feel worse about my actions. When I finally made it to my own hotel room, I threw myself into the bed and covered my face with my hands. At last, tears fell. It was no longer just about me. It was about my decisions, my falsehoods, and the house I had constructed on a foundation that suddenly felt like sand between my fingers. Later that night, I gave William a call. His voice was warm and comforting when he responded on the first ring. However, it simply made me feel more guilty this time. "Evelyn?" Seeing the difficulty in my silence, he replied, "What's the matter?" I took a deep breath. "I have something to tell you," I murmured, trembling. "Something I really regret." Quietly, then gently. I'm paying attention. My hands were shaking. However, I was aware that there was no way out of this. I was forced to confront reality. I was wrong. I acknowledged that my voice was cracking. I felt like my confession was weighing me down. However, I came to a realization at that same time. A brief temptation was not worth the love I had for William. It wasn't simple. It's never easy to tell the truth. However, it was the first step in taking back the life I had almost ruined. A heavy quiet descended over me as I hung up with William. The ramifications of my revelation loomed like a storm on the horizon, and its weight lingered in the air. I thought he would react right away, shout, demand explanations, and condemn me for what I had done. But all that was heard was quiet. I muttered, "William," and he let out a long, slow breath as I tightened my hold on the phone. "Time is what I need, Evelyn." I could sense the tension in his voice, but it was unreadable. Right now, I'm at a loss for words. Before I could answer, the phone stopped. I sat still, gazing at my image in the motel mirror's low lighting. My lips were still swollen from the stolen kisses that had brought me here, my skin was pale, and my eyes were hollowed out from restless nights. Confession was the proper thing to do, so why did it seem like I had just destroyed all I had worked so hard to achieve? My heart leaped as I heard a knock on the door. Before I ever opened it, I knew who it was. Lucas's presence filled the entryway like an unstoppable force as he stood there, his black eyes seeking mine. Even though he was dressed differently than he had been the night before, the intensity of his attention persisted. "Did you not tell him?" Although he spoke quietly, there was an unintelligible tone to his voice. I moved aside to allow him enter and nodded. I was forced to. With a hand over his hair, he closed the door behind him. "Now what?" I gave a headshake. "Lucas, I'm not sure." He remained silent. All he stated was that he needed time. With a quick sigh, he seemed to brace himself. "Do you feel bad about it?" I was cut like a dagger by the question. Was that anything I regretted? I wanted to answer in the affirmative, to let him know that I wished I had never allowed this to occur, that I hoped I had never gazed at him in this manner, and that I had never allowed myself to be consumed by the intensity of his touch. However, the reality was more nuanced than that. "I'm sorry I wounded Samir." I confessed, picking my words carefully. "I'm sorry I betrayed him, but I was hesitant and just said in a whisper. I have no regrets about feeling alive." Lucas took a step forward, his face inscrutable. "What does it imply then?" I tried to collect my thoughts by closing my eyes. "Lucas, it indicates that we are no longer able to perform this. This had to stop, whatever it was. I must make an effort to mend my marriage." His hands tightened at his sides, and his jaw clenched. "What happens if he doesn't pardon you?" The question hung in the air, its consequences more pressing than I could have anticipated. His face became serious. Darkened. "Evelyn, what about me? Do you really believe I can forget our past?" I felt cold when he said it. There was something possessive and menacing about the way he gazed at me. I took a step back, putting distance between us. "You must," I firmly stated. "Both of us must." We were silent for a time. Lucas turned and left without saying anything else, shutting the door behind him. I stayed in my hotel room for the following 2 days. I stayed away from Lucas, didn't answer his calls, and waited for William to phone and let me know what he had decided. My heart almost stopped when my phone finally rang. "Evelyn." There was a new edge to his voice, yet it was steady. "Please, William." He interrupted me before I could finish. "I need to see you in person," he replied slowly, "because I've thought about what you told me." I took a deep breath. "When?" "Tomorrow, I'm taking a plane to Paris." I shut my eyes, preparing myself for what would happen. "All right. Then, we'll speak." The call was cut off. I let out a trembling breath, feeling as if everything was pushing down on me. I had no clue what my spouse, whom I had deceived, would think when I faced him tomorrow. I couldn't sleep that night, so I went for a stroll outside my room. The air was heavy with an eerie calm, and the hotel halls were still. A voice interrupted me as soon as I entered the foyer. Not able to sleep? I made a quick turn. With a drink in his hand, Lucas took a seat on one of the leather seats near the bar. Even though I couldn't read his eyes, there was something in them that made me shudder as he spoke. Something darker now, something different about him. I strongly told you to go to bed. Both of us ought to. However, he grabbed my wrist as I turned to walk away. It's firm enough to make my breath catch, but not too forceful. His voice was dangerously quiet as he said, "Tell me one thing, Evelyn. Will you return to me if he does not forgive you?" My chest constricted. "Please, Lucas. Simply respond to me." I forced myself to look into his eyes and swallowed hard. No. His hands relaxed, his face inscrutable. Without saying another word, he turned and left, vanishing into the hotel's shadows. A shiver went through my body. Something told me that Lucas wasn't prepared to let go, even if I had ended this. And more than anything else, it frightened me. I waited in the hotel lobby the next morning. I became tense. William's presence was like a tidal wave as he entered. He was too composed. And I was more frightened by it than by his yelling when he entered. He sat down on the other side of me. "Tell me everything," he muttered. So I did. I didn't hold back. I told him everything. The night I gave in, the sensations I'd suppressed for too long, and the remorse that engulfed me afterwards. He looked at me for a long time after I was done, his expression inscrutable. At last he said something. "Evelyn, you were adored. I had faith in you." He had a hauntingly steady voice. "However, I'm not sure whether I'll ever be able to look at you the same." My eyes were scorched by tears. "Please, William." He gave a headshake. "I need time. I need room." My heart broke. "Are you going to abandon me?" With a hand through his hair, he let out a breath. "I'm not sure yet." I was left sitting there, drowning in the results of my decisions, when he abruptly got up and left. I came to the realization that, despite my desire to change the past, certain betrayals leave wounds that are too severe to mend as I watched him go. Furthermore, some errors have more consequences than we can possibly fathom. I felt like a ghost wandering throughout the planet for the next several days. William had departed without saying anything more, leaving a lingering recollection of the harm I had caused. He didn't give a call. He didn't send a text. What about Lucas? He was everywhere. I first believed I was dreaming when I saw him in the hotel lobby and felt his eyes on me as I moved through the corridors. Then the messages began. "Evelyn, you can't simply eliminate me. Did you really believe you could use me and then discard me?" Every text message made me shudder. I chose to disregard them in the hopes that he would understand. However, he didn't. I discovered a lone red rose in front of my door one evening when I got back to my hotel room. As I looked down the corridor, my heart was racing. I knew, but it was empty. Lucas refused to let go. My fingers were shaking when I took up the rose. There was a message under it. "Come see me one final time at the rooftop bar." A part of me wanted to ignore it, to act as if it had never happened. However, another part of me realized that this would never stop if I didn't confront him right now. So I went. With the distant city lights glittering, the rooftop bar was silent. Lucas had a tumbler of whiskey as he stood close to the railing. When I got close, he didn't turn. "Did you come?" His voice was silky, yet there was a hint of something chilly about it. I folded my arms. Lucas must be stopped. At last, he turned to face me, his black eyes blazing with a disturbing intensity. "Does it? Do you really believe you can ignore this and act as if it never happened?" I took a deep breath. It was an error. He tightened his jaw. "An error?" He took a step toward me and met my eyes. "I don't think so." I noticed how you gazed at me. Your response to me resonated with me. I stepped back. I made my decision, yet I was lost. My life has to be fixed. Lucas chuckled bitterly. "Make your life better? Alongside him?" He sneered. "Do you believe William will ever again give you the same look? Do you believe he will pardon you?" Since I was secretly unsure, I chose not to respond. He moved in my direction once again. "Evelyn, you had a connection with me. It is unavoidable." I forced myself to be strong and looked him in the eye. Perhaps I did, But this is erroneous because emotions aren't always correct. Lucas's expression became gloomy. That's all, then? Do you think I'll simply let you go? I inhaled deeply. Yes, he gripped his glass more tightly. I thought for a second he may throw it, but then he just turned away with a harsh sigh. All right. I kept my eye on him, anticipating a last, fervent appeal. However, he chose to just stand and gaze at the skyline. That gave me the signal to go. I heard him murmur, "You'll regret this," as I turned to go. I didn't turn around even though I felt a chill. I booked the earliest ticket home after checking out of the motel the next morning. I couldn't endure the memories or the threat of Lucas hiding in the shadows any longer. William was waiting for me outside the airport when I touched down. The sight of him made my heart tighten. I said in a whisper, "You arrived." He looked closely at me. "We must speak." I gave a nod. I am aware. Unspoken comments weighed heavily on the silent journey home. He parked the vehicle but did not get out when we eventually got there. He turned to face me instead. "Evelyn, I'm not sure whether I'll ever be able to forgive you." He acknowledged. "I still adore you, however." My eyes filled with tears. "William, I will stop at nothing to make things right because I also love you." He sighed after giving me a long look. Let's see. It wasn't pardon. It was not a commitment. However, it was a beginning. Conclusion. The past is never really forgotten. Months went by. Bit by bit, William and I sorted through the ruins of our marriage. We were trying, but it wasn't easy. What about Lucas? He vanished. Don't text. No phone calls. He seemed to have entirely disappeared from my life. Until one night. I sensed it as I was making my way home from work. That old feeling of being observed. I swiftly turned and looked around the congested street. Then I caught sight of him, half hidden in the darkness, standing across the street. Lucas. His gaze locked with me. His lips formed a slow, knowing grin. I understood then that this was not the end of it. For more engrossing stories, please like, share, and subscribe. Stories I know if this one captured your attention. To ensure you never miss an update, don't forget to click the bell symbol. Leave a comment with your ideas. Please share your thoughts with me.